Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm Iain.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to talk about a Martin Scorsese film which came out in 1985, After Hours. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Paul, played by Griffin Dunne, who is a word processor. He meets a girl called Marcy, played by Rosanna Arquette, in a coffee shop, and they strike up a conversation, and she gives him her phone number. So Paul takes it upon himself to call her up, and she invites him over. He then goes over to see her and amazingly gets into one obscure, weird situation after another.
That's right, there's not really much of a plot for this movie.
No.
It's much more a series of comical events that just kind of escalate one after the other. The only real sort of drive for our protagonist in this movie is he just wants to go home.
I'm not going to rip you off. I'm not. If you know what I've been through tonight, you'd know that the last thing I want to do is steal from somebody. I really just want to get home.
Right from the get-go, when he's having this chance encounter with this sort of attractive young blonde woman in this coffee shop, and he's just reading his book, and they just spark up a conversation, and you're just like, wow, you know, these sort of chance encounters usually happen in typical romantic comedy situations. You know, it's kind of film time.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, you're going along with it, and they have that meeting, and I'm already getting this feeling that there's something quite not right about this woman. This has just happened way too sort of naturally and easy.
Yeah.
And so when he's desperately trying to write the number down and the ink's out in the pen, I'm just like, it's a sign. Right now. Not meant to have this girl's number. But lo and behold, he gets the number, goes home, and he's mulling it over, and he goes back around the house. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is a trap. Run!
This film is brilliant. It's the first time I'd seen it, first time Gary'd seen it, and we didn't really know what to expect. We knew that it was a guy who met a girl and some stuff happens to him, but the way that it all plays out, you really feel for this guy. You really feel like you're on the journey with him. I mean, the film's only like 97 minutes long, but for me it was like 5 or 6 hours over the evening. From the moment he puts the phone down and he gets into the taxi cab, just one thing happening after another. He's losing his money. He's meeting strange people. He's questioning all the things that he's saying and doing. And you know, these people are coming out with their life to him. You know,
and this is also it's setting New York City as well.
Yeah.
So we're seeing some sort of exaggerated, or what I would believe is exaggerated New Yorkers sort of wearing their hearts on their sleeves and just expressing themselves to everybody, and anybody who will listen or won't listen, they still will.
You have a great body.
Yes. Not a lot of scars.
It's true.
It just rolls. I mean, from the moment he gets to Marcy's apartment and he meets Kiki, played by Linda Fiorentino, I think it is, from Dogma. I only recently just watched Dogma, and when I saw her in this film with her boobs out, I was like, whoa.
Uh-huh.
Holy shit. Get out of this situation, Paul. There's something questionable about this. And, you know, she's there and she's putting together this paper mache sculpture, and, you know, he's striking up conversation with her. And then it goes from there where he gets put in an awkward situation and Marcy comes home, and then he starts getting into awkward conversations with Marcy. And I'm like, this is only like 20 minutes in. What the fuck is gonna come next?
It's like at the 3/4 point of like a normal romantic comedy. And so they're at that point where he's starting to realize that, yeah, there isn't something quite right here. I mean, you got married at a young age, your husband really obsesses over the movie Wizard of Oz.
Husband was a movie freak. Actually, he was particularly obsessed with one movie.
You can also see maybe some parallels between the two movies. But anyway, he likes to yell out, "Surrender, Dorothy," during sex. Or at the climax of, rather. And she also tells him, this is their first date. This is like their first sort of meeting each other. And she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I got raped by my boyfriend for about 6 hours."
Oh.
I lived here once. He came in through there off the fire escape. Actually, it was a boyfriend of mine. To tell you the truth, I slept through most of it. So, there you are.
I've also got some bizarre burn cream, which I'm keeping secret, and books about burn victims.
Oh, my God. Oh, God. Oh.
Oh, and by the way, you also happen to, coincidentally have horror stories about being in a burn ward. It's like, all these coincidences are adding up. And as the film's going on, you realise that all of these different people that he's encountering all have strange, tenuous links to other people that he's already encountered in the film.
Yeah, he is trapped in this neighbourhood, and there's a state of burglaries going on at the moment, being led by Cheech and Chong, Neil and Pepe. And they are going around people's apartments stealing stuff, and Paul inadvertently gets suspected that he is the thief. And you watch the stress on the actor's face throughout the movie. As the film, he starts off as a nice guy, he's all dressed up, ready for his date. By the end of the film, he is running down the streets, screaming at the sky, "Why me?"
What do you want from me? What have I done? Just a word processor, for Christ's sake!
Because see, all this guy wanted was just to go out and meet a nice girl, have a good time, go home, maybe start something. And so it's interesting to know that Scorsese told him when they were filming this, they were like, "Not allowed to have sex, and you're hardly allowed to sleep until we finish making this movie." And that fatigue in the actor is coming through tenfold in this movie, because he is looking paranoid, he's looking skitzed out, he doesn't know who he can trust, who he can turn to, or he just wants it all to end. And you can see it in his face.
I don't have to take that kind of shit, I mean, what is it with people today? You can't say anything without getting some kind of a smart answer. You just have to be so goddamn careful about everything you say.
And I'm also surprised that for a Scorsese movie, this is filled with comedy. It is a hidden gem of a movie. I've very rarely come across anyone that's ever mentioned this film at all.
This film is layered with just lots of comedy and lots of dark comedy. Like the situation when Marcy is explaining to Paul about her rape, and it starts off really dark. "I was raped here in this room," so Paul's looking around. "Oh, he climbed in through the fire escape, he held a knife to my throat. He drew it out for 6 hours. Oh yeah, and by the way, it was my boyfriend, and I fell asleep for it." And I just burst out laughing. I couldn't help myself. The way it just built up to her just dropping that bombshell of, "I was asleep and it was my boyfriend," and she just carries on as normal.
There's so many instances that just make you double check that you heard that right in the film, because they are just so over the top. You can't almost believe that this is happening.
No.
And throughout the film, I was getting the feeling that there was something sort of like predestined in all of these encounters, because they were just so coincidental. It gets to the point where sort of one of the linchpins that ties this all together is that after he's rejected this girl, Marcy, that he realised that there's something terribly wrong with her, a series of events leads him to actually having to come back to the house.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for her, she's committed suicide. And that there just springboards another whole series of events, which takes it right to the end of the movie. And it does go at a breakneck pace.
Yeah.
There's no lulls in the movie because, like I said, the plot is so wafer thin, but all these little vignettes of action just keep it rolling into the next scene. And a lot of the things that are set up at the beginning of the movie all have small little comedic payoffs, either in the middle or throughout to the very end of the film.
Scorsese manages to just keep on top of everything in this film. It all links, and in a weird way, you kind of reflect back to Taxi Driver. You know, you look at the further films that he's made, like Goodfellas and The Departed, where everybody you see on screen has a connection to somebody else, you know, that you will see either later on or before. And you are following just one character and the lives that are going on around him. I'd seen quite a few Scorsese movies, never seen this one before. And yet I'm just like, you need to make another comedy like this. This is just gold, you know. It is. We are talking 85. It will appear dated as well, but just the acting from the characters, I totally forgot it was Rosanna Arquette. I started to believe that, you know, this was Marcy. Griffin Dunne, obviously from the brilliant American Werewolf in London, but I'm looking at him and I'm just seeing him as Paul now, and I'm just like, wow.
Do you know what this is?
No?
It brilliantly brings up two other characters that I love as well, Catherine O'Hara and John Hurd. John Hurd plays a bartender who is the boyfriend of Marcy, and he finds out later on that she's killed herself while he's talking to Paul, and Paul is just sat there not saying a word, doesn't know anything that he's talking about. I have no connection to it.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Can you say? After all, it wasn't your fault.
And then later on, he ends up bumping into Catherine O'Hara, who drives a Mr. Whippy ice cream truck. And if you haven't got it by this point, these are the two parents from Home Alone. And I couldn't shake the fact that they used to live in New York. They had this weird night, they got together, and then they went off and had Macaulay Culkin.
For me, this is, in many ways, it's been said that this is like Scorsese's sort of Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at sort of clues and information that's in the background of all of the scenes. And also in terms of the music score and the camera work.
Yeah.
There's lots of traditional Scorsese camera work in the movie where there's not many cuts, but it's just all pans and the camera keeps moving.
Yeah.
But there is just some, like, bizarre zoom shots up onto keys or onto faces or onto things that just keep you transfixed in the things that are happening, and it is just seamless in the movie unless you're actively trying to look for those things.
Yeah. Just the characters. I love it when he goes into the bar for the first time and he explains to the cocktail waitress that he doesn't want anything, he hasn't got any money, you know, he's broke. And he goes to the toilet, he comes back and she's left a note saying, "Help me, I hate this job." And it's like, you don't know who this guy is. You want him to get you out of the job. And,
It just seems like every sort of 10-15 minutes he's sat afresh with a new person and a whole new wave of problems. It's just like that cringe-worthy moment where, I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, where you're trying to remember a series of numbers and some git is sat next to you just shouting out odd different numbers.
1, 9, 6, 2.
And he's just like, please, you do not understand how terrible a day I've had. And she's just like, yeah, well, my job's really demanding and I have to do all this. And he's just like, you're not even listening to me.
She's not even listening.
It is fascinating to watch. It is bizarre. It is almost surreal as you're going through this experience because you are there front and foremost with Paul this entire time.
Yeah.
I love the fact that everything that's happening around him, he almost seems to be to blame for it all. And for me, that is highlighted in perhaps my favourite moment in the film, where he's sort of looking so almost voyeuristically in other windows, and he's looking around, and in the window he can sort of hear this argument that's happening, and all of a sudden this woman just shoots this guy like 6 times in the stomach. And I'm like, that looks like a different Scorsese movie that's happening over there. But he turns to the camera and he just says, I'm probably going to get blamed for that. And you just like, yeah, that captures everything that this movie is about.
Probably get blamed for that.
And that's why it's my favourite moment. I don't have an entire favourite scene because every scene just builds upon the last one right to the film's climax.
Yeah. It's hard for me to pinpoint one brilliant scene because they were all just epic. I mean, the sequences with Cheech and Chong turning up, you know, the sequence where he's meeting the parents of Macaulay Culkin, the woman playing the music and drawing his picture, and she keeps getting angry they won't stay. She's got all the mouse traps around her bed. That was just like, what the fuck? But if I had to pick one sequence which I thought was really, really good, it was when he goes to Club Berlin, and he has this whole conversation piece with the bouncer outside who won't let him in, and then when he gets pushed in, the whole place is like, well, it's 80s New York punk rock. The whole place is kicking off. People are just fucking grinding to music and smashing glasses. He leaves, and then he has to come back to the same club. And when he walks inside, it is dead. Apart from one woman in the corner. And I'm just like, wow. That's crazy.
Like I said, it does feel surreal. I was wondering to myself at that point whether it was the same club. I was like, was that the same bouncer that he passed? Because it happened so quickly.
Yeah.
How could it be so deserted?
Invitation only.
It was just a setup, just to get to perhaps the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's got to be said that as fantastic as this film is, the ending is a little bit take or leave.
No.
Now, it's been said that there was multiple endings to this movie. They didn't really know how to end it, and original test screenings for the original ending upset audiences. I'll just go to say that there is one ending where he climbs into a woman's womb, and she takes him onto the highway and gives birth to him.
Yeah.
So he could be free from the mob. I'm like, just that there is just one possible solution to the ending. So you can kind of look up the others, and you can see what could have been.
I love the ending.
I don't get me wrong, I do still like the ending to this movie. It's just you could have seen it going perhaps darker than what it is. The actual ending to it, I think, is also quite poignant, though. When you're taking the mundane realities of life compared to going into this 80s New York sort of art underground scene.
Yeah. I mean, he starts off coming out from work. He goes through the whole night's events, and then to get back right where he started, you can just see it's brilliant. I find it brilliant because he just stands up, and he's still wearing the same clothes. He is absolutely exhausted, but there is just a look of relief on his face that he is back in a place where that he's comfortable, that he knows, you know, and that he can just try and forget the whole night's events. Is absolutely brilliant.
I definitely recommend After Hours. It's a hidden gem of a movie. No one has seen it. It belongs in the accolades of Martin Scorsese movies, as well as romantic comedies or just dark comedies in general. It's a small masterpiece. It really is. It's a film that I could see myself revisiting, rewatching, and sharing with other people. Definitely check out After Hours.
I definitely recommend it, but with a warning as well. I mean, if you're a Martin Scorsese fan and you've seen all of his classics, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, all of the others, you know, and you
it's not that.
Yeah, it's not that. If you expect, you know, gangsters and deaths and gunfights, then you're not going to get that. What you're going to get is one man's journey, and if you're willing on stepping out of your comfort zone and going on the journey with him, you will really enjoy yourself, especially when you get back.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Is that all there is? If that's all there is, my friends, then let's keep dancing.
What do you want from me? What have I done? Just a word processor, for Christ's sake!